On this week's 2-minute tip, we're harvesting winter squash. It's been about 90 days since we planted our small Wonder spaghetti squash here, and they're getting ready to harvest. Now this is what we call a personal size spaghetti squash. Your normal spaghetti squash gets kind of the size of a NFL football. These are about half that size. It's a great little spaghetti squash for, just a couple of folks. You can cut these in half, just throw them in the microwave, and they're delicious to eat. They're also really, really prolific. As you can see, we've got a pretty good harvest here and still got a long way to go. There's probably 5 or 6 more buckets of these things in this little plot right here. And today I want to show you a few key indicators of how we know when these things are ready to harvest. The first key indicator here you'll notice is these plants start to die back. The leaves will get pretty crispy and everything will start to die back and start looking dead. And that's the first way you know they're getting ready to harvest. Another way you can tell is that the color will start to fully develop. So on these spaghetti squash here, they're green initially, but once that bright yellow color starts to develop, you know they're getting close or they're there. The third way is to kind of scratch the skin here with your fingernail. If you can scratch the skin of that fruit and none of the peeling comes off there, feels pretty hard and you can't scratch it, you also know it's ready to harvest. And then the fourth and probably the best way to tell is that this stem right here will get real dry and hard. And that's when you know that these guys are ready. And it's a good idea to take you a pair of pruning shears in here when you're harvesting these guys. Sometimes they'll break off, but these things are pretty hard and pretty thick. So we just take a pair of pruning shears and cut them off right there, and we're good to go. And once we've harvested these spaghetti squash, we'll just come in here and lay them on our storage rack underneath the barn. In here, they've got nice, good airflow. They're in the shade. They're not going to get too hot. And these things will store for at least 5 to 6 months underneath this barn on this rack right here. So it's a great storage crop to grow in your vegetable garden. In most climates, you can actually grow 2 crops of these per year. So you can plant them in the spring like we did here, and you can also plant them late June, early July if you're aiming for more of an October harvest. If you're interested in these small Wonder spaghetti squash, I'll put a link below so you can check those out. I hope you enjoyed this week's 2-minute tip. We'll see you next week.